करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Mark Antony's oration in the play Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. We'll begin by watching the clip from the movie where Marlon Brando plays the role of Mark Antony. We'll start the clip 3 or 4 minutes earlier because that will give us the background of Mark Antony's oration. The situation is that Julius Caesar, who was the emperor or king of Rome, was assassinated by a group of conspirators, Casca, Cassius, and they all got Brutus also to join them. And Brutus was a person who was in a very favorable disposition. I mean, Caesar considered him to be like his lieutenant, like that relationship he had, and he had special love and affection for Brutus, but he was compelled to join the conspirators and they assassinated him. The entire people of Rome now, the mob does not know what has happened and they are waiting outside as to what has happened and what is the reason, etc. So it's a very charged atmosphere. It is in that stage that Brutus, who was a very great and talented orator, he comes and takes charge and he convinces the mob that they have killed Julius Caesar for the good of Rome, and that is where it begins. Mark Antony was Julius Caesar's friend, and the whole assassination plot happened in Mark Antony's absence. Maybe if he was there, he could have protected Caesar, we do not know. So they planned it in such a way and executed perfectly, and then when Antony came to know about this, it was too late. But then he considers it as his duty to expose the conspirators, and that is the famous portion of this English literature in this play called the Mark Antony's Oration. It's quite famous and it's appreciated everywhere. So we will just watch the clip, as I said, from Brutus's oration. So actually there is nothing more to be said. This is a drama more than any philosophical content, as we have seen in other poems. This particular portion from this drama of Julius Caesar educates about how psychologically you should deal with situation. That is one of the key messages here. See, what we understand first is about the mob psychology. When people gather together in mob, there is no chance of reason, even if they have capacity to reason. Even if there was a reasonable voice in the crowd, his voice will be drowned. That is the mob psychology. And when they are charged, mob is generally good, but when they are come collectively, when the emotions are at full charge, we really do not know what will happen then. It can cause devastation before you even realize. And Brutus was a very talented person. He used the mob to his advantage. So his oration also was powerful, very short and very powerful, to the point. But how he completely convinced the mob is something that it's fantastic. So there is a lesson there that if you want to convince them, you put a question in such a way that the answer will be in your favor, and that's what Brutus said. So he says that it is not that I loved Caesar any less, but I loved Rome more. And would you want to be like slaves, and you want Caesar to be living with you, living as slaves, or you want Caesar dead and you can be free? And obviously, that aspect was kindled in them, and everybody was convinced that nobody would want to question that, and that is the situation there, right? And so within minutes, everybody were convinced that Caesar had to be killed, and it was very justified. And the entry point of Antony was also that they were seeing Caesar's body being carried, and even at that point of time, Brutus completely took it to his advantage that at least do grace to Caesar's corpse and listen to Mark Antony, as though showing his magnanimity, and he says, the same dagger is reserved for myself also. So 100% the pendulum has swung this side, and they're all supporting Brutus. So it is at this point that Mark Antony has to do what he feels is the right thing to do. He feels it is his obligation to expose the conspirators because it was very clear for him. But not only Brutus and the conspirators were very powerful, now the entire people were also convinced. So it is just not easy for him to do this. But how he goes about doing this meticulously is this fantastic portion. So there are various stages here. Of course, we do not know if it is Brutus' mistake that he left the scene after giving Mark Antony the place to speak. One of the conspirators, I think Cassius, they say that please do not allow him to speak. But Brutus says no, it will be to our advantage, and first I will convince them that it was all done for good. Here also you have to understand one thing, that for the bad set of people also, if they want to remain successful, there has to be a good face for them, and that is why it was important that Brutus was brought to their side. Brutus is generally a nice person, a good person, and that is what is Mark Antony going to say at the very end of the play. But maybe his mind was poisoned and he was taken, and Brutus is the face that is going to be presented to the public. So here is an important lesson, that even if you want to cheat others, or if somebody wants to cheat and win over others in a very, in a way that it is very cunning, even for them to put up a good face is important, because goodness alone wins finally, that is the truth. But even temporarily, if there is a victory required, there is a face of good that is required. Otherwise, why should Ravana come in the face of a outer robe of a sannyasi to take Sita away? Because that is what is going to convince. Like that it is. Okay, so this is the situation now. And then Brutus watches. And second point about Mark Antony's oration is that though there is definitely a personal affection because Caesar was his great friend, and he feels this loss immensely. Second is, the country should not be handed over to such people who are extremely selfish and who are extremely, they conspired to fell a great king and took this position by unlawful means. So they ought to be exposed. This is where aggressive goodness comes in. Aggressive goodness is, the aggressive badness uses all the power with itself for a selfish purpose, and obviously Brutus represented that. And when aggression is there at the intellect level, at the thought level, you know how to manage the situation and turn it into your favor. And however great you are, if you are passive, nothing can be done against them, because they are doing it in a very, very calculated way. So only aggressive good can confront aggressive bad, and aggressive good is prompted by a deep passion. That is the base. That is the fundamental. So here, though there is a personal affectation, that passion has to be there, but how do you use that passion and direct it properly to the desired end? That needs a lot of calculation, intellect, and objectivity. So even though the loss is personal, even though you may want to view it personally, this has to be done objectively as though you would do it for a third person. And that is what very clearly Mark Antony shows here. So he has to slowly change the situation, and there is a small time only available for him. In that situation, he goes step by step and brings them to his side first, and then he is able to invoke their emotion. See, actually, whatever he has said, it could be reasonable also, but in a mob psychology, you have to invoke their emotion to the positive way, which he did. And finally, whatever was the trump card that was there as a will and other thing that he showed, and completely turned the mob against the thing. And the last words that Mark Antony utters, which is the most important words in this oration, is left out in the movie. When we come there, we'll see. Now, a caveat in the beginning that we will be going through this Mark Antony's oration as read out by Swamiji. So if we are going to pause it and have some explanation in between, actually it is like it is not correct, but we have to do it. So that's a caveat, and there is no justice at all, because this, as I said, has to be only felt. There are no great philosophical messages. Like when you saw daffodils, you can interpret it to be karma yoga, bhakti yoga. There is a lot of thing that can be derived, but there's no a philosophical content that you are going to derive from it. And here and there are sparks of wisdom also that is given here in Mark Antony's oration. But definitely the flow in which it has to be read will be interrupted, and I can only apologize for that. So we will go through the portion of this with Swamiji reading it.
Text of Mark Antony's oration in Julius Caesar.
Brutus, good countrymen, let me depart alone, and for my sake stay here with Antony. Do grace to Caesar's corpse, and grace his speech, tending to Caesar's glories, which Mark Antony, by our permission, is allowed to make. I do entreat you, not a man depart, save I alone till Antony have spoke. Exit.
So Brutus hands over the stage to Mark Antony. He says, "Let me depart," and probably he thought that nothing can happen. Plus, he also thought it will be to his advantage that he has given a position to Mark Antony from where he can do the funeral speech. So that way, people will be even more considering him to be somewhat great. And why did he leave? We do not know. But the point is, he is like the top leader now, and somebody who is not up to his rank and he is speaking, he cannot stand there and wait and listen. And also, from the points that he had spoken to the crowd, it will be sort of embarrassing for him if he will be in the scene. So for all these reasons, maybe he leaves the scene. But that turns out to be a mistake because whatever has happened after that, he would not know actually. So this is the situation where Brutus gives the stage to Antony and he leaves.
First citizen, stay, ho, and let us hear Mark Antony. Third citizen, let him go up into the public chair. We'll hear him. Noble Antony, go up. Antony.
For Brutus's sake, I am beholding to you.
Antony goes into the pulpit. Fourth citizen, what does he say of Brutus? Third citizen, he says for Brutus's sake, he finds himself beholding to us all. Fourth citizen, twere best he speak no harm of Brutus here. First citizen, this Caesar was a tyrant. Third citizen, nay, that's certain. We are blessed that Rome is rid of him. Second citizen, peace. Let us hear what Antony can say.
So this portion shows that how the mob is completely charged They have completely sold themselves to Brutus's points, and of course, they are waiting for Antony to speak and they will listen. But the citizens are saying that even as Antony begins, see how Antony begins, he says, "For Brutus's sake, I am beholding to you." So I am going to speak to you, I am here in front of you for the sake of Brutus. So he knows that only by using Brutus' name can he now get into their hearts. And because they are completely with Brutus now. And immediately the citizen is asking, what does he say of Brutus? Then he says whatever he's saying. So he says, it is best that he speaks no harm of Brutus here. And they immediately cursed Caesar, that Caesar was a tyrant, and we are blessed that he is, Rome is rid of him. So this is the charged atmosphere where the people are completely against Caesar, they are for Brutus. So you have to only imagine the situation that how a person with a strong mob with this type of inclination can be changed within 10 minutes or so when he is given that opportunity.
Antony.
You gentle Romans,
Citizens. Peace. Ho! Let us hear him. Antony.
friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, so are they all honourable men.
So Antony begins his oration by this famous words, friends, Romans, countrymen. I have come here only to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Okay. Actually, he is going to do only that. In the mob psychology, that's what we see there. He is going to say all those things which are opposite, but in the end, he is going to prove whatever he wants to prove. He says, so he begins like this because as he is now aware in what kind of atmosphere that the people are and what is their opinion about Caesar now, he says, I have not come to praise him. I have only come to bury him. And what he talks here is a practical truth that whatever and however a man has lived his life with all his good intent and actions, all those things are usually taken for granted. But any one thing that he has failed, that is what is going to carry his memory. The memory of that person is carried by that. So he makes a very great statement here that the evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. It is just taken for granted, and that's how it is. You can, and particularly when it comes to a good person, see, all of us are with good and bad mixed together, right? You know where the evil will be pronounced more? Like, for example, in Vedanta treatise, I think the statement comes that the very nature of perfection is that it must reveal itself as imperfection. Suppose if there is a dirty cloth full of dirt and stains everywhere, and you add 2 more drops of ink to it or some more dirt to it, it will not be very visible. But if there is a plain white cloth, a screen or a dhoti, something is very plain white and nice, in that if that same 2 drops of ink is there, it will be more pronounced and more visible. It's like that it is. So, for a good person where his whole life is good, if there is 1 or 2 deficiencies or defects or something that is bad about him, that will be much more pronounced, and that is what is going to, all said and done, he must not have spoken like that. Like that, that is how he will be perceived. And that is what he says here, the good is oft interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar. Noble Brutus. See, again and again he is going to give them this noble Brutus, no, an honorable man he is going to say again and again. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. And if it were so he is making a categorical statement. If he was that, if he was what he was accused of, if it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it.
For Brutus is an honourable man, so are they all honourable men?
So here he says, here under the leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man. He is going to harp on this point again and again and again, so that the reverse psychology is used. Actually, Brutus has lost his honor. He is a dishonorable person. To emphasize on that, and to emphasize on the point that you are revering and respecting a person who is not worthy of it, he is going to say this again and again and again. For Brutus is an honorable man. So are all the honorable men, all the conspirators, they are there.
Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious?
He was just my friend and faithful to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. So this he is going to repeat again and again. Now he is asking this question. Okay, you are saying that he is ambitious, or you are made to understand that he is ambitious. He had brought many captives home to Rome, they got all ransoms from them, from the captives, and that was all put in the general coffers. He did not take anything for him personally. Did this in Caesar ambitious to you? Is this ambition?
When that the poor have cried, Caesar has wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honourable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here am I to speak what I do know.
Why is he harping on the word ambition is that Brutus has said that he paid the price, Caesar paid the price because of his ambition. He, for whatever that is good he did, he repaid him back, but because he was ambitious, he had to be killed. So that was the charge against Caesar. And so he's asking, what is it actually in Caesar that it is ambitious? He did not do anything personally for him. He said, when poor cried, he also wept. Such was his identification. So if such a person was selfish and ambitious, it was there. He says that ambition must be made of some sterner stuff. It cannot be so easy, that it is very fluid and it is available for all. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. And yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. So he is again and again harping on this point to make the crowd think of Brutus as how he should be thought of. He gives an incident again that during the Lupercal, which is a Roman festival, that Antony thrice presented the crown to Caesar and thrice he refused. If actually he was an ambitious person and he wanted glory and everything for himself, he would have easily accepted all those things. So he is recalling that incident because all these people were there. Was this ambition? And yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honourable man. Brutus. And then he says, I have come here not to speak anything against what Brutus has spoken, but I am here to speak what I do know. So it is just that I am presenting an account which I know. It is not for me to disprove Brutus, because he still doesn't know what is their stance. Slowly he is building his case. So therefore he is not outright saying anything against Brutus, and he is only referring to him as honourable man again and again, And he is very categorically saying here that I am not here to disprove what Brutus spoke, but I am only speaking what I know.
You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to Brutus' beasts, and men have lost their reason.
And this is very important to note in mob psychology again. When everybody is given a direction and they start thinking in a particular direction, in a herd instinct, you are also, you don't have chance to think or reason there. That's what happens. That's why we see, whether it is in a big rally or big political meetings or anywhere, only emotions are displayed. And who are the leaders who can win the elections or whatever they are wanting that crowd to do? It is they who can use that emotions of the crowd to their advantage. So all this while Caesar was ruling, and they were all actually in favor of him, they loved him. Overnight something happened and Brutus said something, and completely you have sort of forgotten him. You all did love him once, not without a cause. Okay. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Okay, even if he has done some mistake, and he has enough accounts in his karma for your sympathy, for your love. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Very famous words, O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. This Swamiji says, Antony is not speaking to that crowd alone, Shakespeare is speaking to all of us. Judgment, reason, this is the facet of intellect. No intellect at all. Intellect does not function at all. It is only emotions that function. All our decisions are made based on emotions. All our actions are following emotions. And this aspect is highlighted by this line. Judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. This is a play that is written maybe 4 or 5 centuries back. That was the case then also, that is the case now also. A majority of the people are not thinking. When I say majority, vast majority. Swamiji has written in his book that a person who can really think is like finding such a person is equal to finding a needle in haystack. Like that it is. Men have lost their reason.
Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me.
We saw this in the play also. Once he has made his first salvo, fired his first salvo like this, he has broken the very backbone of Brutus' argument that Caesar was ambitious. That argument is completely broken now. Now he is pausing to check what is the reaction of the crowd. See, all this is not just dramatization by Mark Antony. He is really feeling like that. But the point is, when he is given a small time to speak and do whatever he is supposed to do, he has to understand what is the reaction of the audience. And this is very important for any public speaker also. You might have all the stuff that you want to convey, but only when you are having the audience attention to you can there be a smooth transaction of knowledge. See, Swamiji says he is naturally prone to writing. He is a great author, but he has been a public speaker for more than 60-65 years. And he says, I put in a conscious effort to develop this art of public speaking. When you are in a one-to-one basis, probably that's the best class. You know exactly how to gauge the student, and you can take him from his level upwards. But when you are speaking to a big crowd or an audience, maybe 200, 600,000, whatever be the number of people, somewhere you have to hit at the average. And that is why more than any other speaker, he emphasizes that the light must be on the audience, because he wants to see the face of the audience as to what they react for. Some may react to jokes, some may react to poetry, some may react to Sanskrit shlokas. You have to say something according to what they prefer and then catch their attention. Then it becomes easy for you to convey whatever you want to convey. It is not that for playing for the gallery means you keep on saying 1.5 hours jokes and nothing of Bhagavad Gita you talk, but you have to catch their attention. And here is Mark Antony just pausing for a moment to see how they have reacted. And he has understood that they have reacted positively for whatever he has said so far.
First citizen. Methinks there is much reason in his sayings. Second citizen. If thou consider rightly of the matter, Caesar has had great wrong. Third citizen. Has he masters? I fear there will a worse come in his place. Fourth citizen. Mark ye his words? He would not take the crown. Therefore 'tis certain he was not ambitious. First citizen. If it be found so, some will dear abide it. Second citizen. Poor soul, his eyes are red as fire with weeping. Third citizen. There's not a nobler man in Rome than Antony. Fourth citizen. Now mark him. He begins again to speak.
So here we see that the citizens are favorably reacting to Antony's words, and they are thinking that definitely that cannot be ambitious because he refused the crown and he did, that was really not ambitious. If it was ambitious, he would have abided by it. That was not the case. So they are now beginning to see a reason in Mark Antony's words. Now he begins to speak again.
Antony.
But yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he there, and none so poor to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honourable men. I will not do them wrong. I rather choose to wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you. Then I will wrong such honourable men.
So this is the second stage where he brings all the crowd to his side. He has carefully now introduced the word mutiny and rage because that is what is going to happen at the end. And even if they forget, he is not going to forget because that is what the conspirators deserve. So he has introduced this word mutiny and rage. I remember there was a Tamil play by Joe Ramaswamy, and it was Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and the last scene is inspired by this Mark Antony's oration also. He says all the things about his friend in a way that please don't do it, please don't do it, please don't throw stones at him, please don't kill him, and actually he wants him killed. Exactly that portion is actually inspired by Mark Antony's oration. So even if somebody is forgotten, he is not going to forget, so he has carefully planted the idea of mutiny and rage in their minds. So if I should do that, then he says I should do Brutus and Cassius and other honourable person, I should do them wrong. No, I will rather wrong myself, I will rather wrong the dead and you. So all of us are one team now, that's the stage that he has created.
But here is a parchment with the seal of Caesar. I found it in his closet. It is his will. Let but the commons hear this testament, which, pardon me, I do not mean to read.
See, look at what he says. This is the trump card now. The second trump card that he is using is that is a will he has found, and it's a true will with the seal of Caesar. Let the commons hear the testament, which, pardon me, I do not mean to read. So that is the thing, that he has shown it. He knows that only by saying this that they are going to be charged more and say, read the will, throughout the play that they are going to say it.
And they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood, a beggar of him for memory, and dying mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their issue.
If only they hear this will, then what people will do is that they will dip a napkin in the blood of Caesar. They will preserve it and they will pass it on to their generation. To such extent is the value that they will have for Caesar. All this thing he says, and then he is going to say, I do not mean to read this will.
Fourth citizen. Will hear the will. Read it, Mark Antony. Citizens. The will, the will. We will hear Caesar's will. Antony.
Have patience, gentle friends. I must not read it. It is not meet, you know how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you are not stones, but men. And being men, hearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you. It will make you mad. 'Tis good you know not that you are his heirs. For if you should, oh, what would come of it?
Very brilliantly he is saying that I should not read the will, because if I read the will, what will come of it? I do not know. Maybe he is going to say I have overshot myself. All this is actually slowly building the case so that the emotions are swelling up in the minds of the people. So it is good you know not that you are his heirs. He has already said it, but he is saying it is good that you know not that you are his heirs. For if you should, oh, what would come of it?
Fourth citizen. Read the will. We'll hear it, Antony. You shall read us the will. Caesar's will. Antony.
Will you be patient? Will you stay a while? I have overshot myself to tell you of it. I fear I wrong the honourable men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar. I do fear it.
Fourth citizen. They were traitors. Honourable men. Citizens. The will. The testament. Second citizen. They were villains. Murderers. The will. Read the will.
So he is again emphasizing on the point that maybe I have overshot myself to tell you, I should not have told, because I fear then I will be wrong, doing wrong to the honourable men. So the moment they hear it now, they are saying, what big honourable men? They are all traitors, they are all villains. So now they are completely convinced that the people who have done this to Caesar need to be punished, and there is absolutely no way that anybody can sort of respect them.
Antony.
You will compel me then to read the will? Then make a ring about the corpse of Caesar, and let me show you him that made the will. Shall I descend? And will you give me leave?
Citizens. Come down. Second citizen. Descend. Third citizen. You shall have leave. Antony comes down. Fourth citizen. A ring. Stand round. First citizen. Stand from the hearse. Stand from the body. Second citizen. Room for Antony. Most noble Antony.
This is the step that one needs to follow. That the trump card is the will. He is going to use it as the last trump card only, but he has made the presence felt of that. Now, in order to charge them more, he has to show what has happened to Caesar. So he says, before reading the will, let us look at the person who made the will, and he comes down from the place where he is talking, because Caesar is now covered with the thing. Once he is going to show Caesar to them and what has happened to him, that is going to infuriate them more. That is very important. So he is slowly building up the case here to the next level now. They are treating him like the leader now.
Antony.
Nay, press not so upon me. Stand far off.
Citizens. Stand back. Room. Bear back. Antony.
If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. 'Twas on a summer's evening in his tent, the day he overcame the nervy. Look, in this place ran Cassius daggers through. See what a rent the envious Casca made. Through this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed, and as he plucked the cursed steel away,
He is showing the mantle of Caesar, that is the dress that he was wearing. He is remembering when he was wearing first and that same dress that he was wearing today. In that dress there are various places where the holes are made and it is torn by the daggers that were used by the conspirators. So first he is showing where Cassius' dagger was there, and then the casca, because I mean that scene is quite famous, everybody knows that each and every one of them stabbed. Caesar was shaken and he finally goes to Brutus, because Brutus was the only person who he always depended upon, and Brutus stabs him last, and then the last and famous words of Caesar, they et tu Brute, then fall Caesar, and he falls down. So he is talking about that at last, through this, the hole that he is showing, well beloved Brutus stabbed, and as he plucked his skirts steal away.
Mark how the blood of Caesar followed it, as rushing out of doors to be resolved if Brutus so unkindly knocked on her. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all.
See, look at the choice of the words. As I said, this can be only felt how Mark Antony feels and speaks. The most unkindest cut of all, a double superlative. Unkindest is the superlative, and he says the most unkindest cut of all. The cut that was made by Brutus. Once he plucked that dagger away, the blood was gushing out to see whether really Brutus did it, whether he was like this, if Brutus was so unkindly knocked or no. For why? Because Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. There was no reason for Brutus to do it, so it was very, extreme ingratitude, and that's what he's going to say next. Judge, oh you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all.
For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude more strong than traitors' arms quite vanquished him.
Very important line, oft quoted. In most of the plays, Shakespeare lays emphasis on the value of gratitude. Even in our texts, it is there, particularly in Thirukural, it is said that whatever sin you commit, there is a chance of a remedy. You can do parihara, but there is no remedial action available for ingratitude. It says, Yennandri kondrarkum uivundam, uivillai sainandri kondramagar. Sainandri means the one who has done good to you, helped you. If a person forgets that, that person is committing the greatest sin. He has no remedy at all. So, what vanquished Caesar was not as much traitor's arms as ingratitude. So when Brutus himself was stabbing like this, Caesar probably saw no further point in even continuing to live. That's why he says, you too Brutus, and then fall Caesar. Like that it is. So what really killed him? Because you have to understand the mind of Caesar, that such a contrast, when it happens, it is going to be extremely difficult for you to face that situation. Again, Swamiji says in the class often, if having given all knowledge and other thing, later if any of the student were to raise a revolt against Swamiji or put a case against him, you think I will go and defend myself in the court? What is the point in defending? What is it? So having done everything to Brutus, if this is the thing that is going to come back to him, what is the point? There is no further point in living at all. So what has killed him is really more than traitor's arms, it is ingratitude. Ingratitude more strong than traitor's arms quite vanquished him.
Then burst his mighty heart, and in his mantle muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue, where all the wild ran blood, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen! Then I and you and all of us fell down, whilst bloody treason flourished o'er us.
I'm actually not wanting to pause, wanting to continue, but it's only it's doing injustice to the flow of how Swamiji is speaking here. So he's saying Brutus did not just kill Caesar; he actually killed all of us. Then you and I and all of us fell down whilst bloody treason flourished over us.
Now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops, kind souls. What weep you, when you but behold our Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here, here is himself marred, as you say, with traitors.
Now he sees they are extremely emotional and sympathetic to Caesar, and he says, "You are weeping for this now, right? Now, what will you do if you are going to see the whole thing?" And he removes that mantle and shows the body of Caesar where it has happened.
First citizen. Oh, piteous spectacle. Second citizen. O noble Caesar. Third citizen. O woeful day. Fourth citizen. O traitors, villains. First citizen. O most bloody sight. Second citizen. We will be revenged. Citizens, revenge, about, seek, burn, fire, kill, slay. Let not a traitor live. Antony.
Stay, countrymen.
First citizen. Peace there. Hear the noble Antony. Second citizen. We'll hear him. We'll follow him. We'll die with him.
See, they are extremely charged. He will hold them couple of times to further charge them and then release. So once they are at this level, when they have seen the dead body of Caesar, now itself they say that they have to burn everything and they have to take revenge. And then again he is just holding them for a while to charge them a little more. And you see again the mob psychology here. They were with Brutus fully, they were maybe with Caesar fully before, they were with Brutus fully, and now they are with Antony fully. So what we see is that the mob always needs a leader. And it is good if the leader is objective and he takes the right decision and he is using his intellect, then the whole country will be good, whole society will be good. Gita also says whatever the leader sets standards, that is what everybody is going to follow. So now they need somebody to look up to, and they have already made like Antony their leader now.
Antony.
Good friends, sweet friends, let me not stir you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. They that have done this deed are honourable. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not, that made them do it. They are wise and honourable, and will no doubt with reasons answer you.
So it's very clear that they are in the mood to do that mutiny and burn down everything. In that type of a mood they are. To infuriate further, he says, whoever did this, they are honorable. Why? What private griefs they had, we do not know. So it is very clear that they did something for their selfish purpose, and he's saying, you give them a chance, they will come and answer you. So obviously all this is putting a case where they are not going to allow any of this. They are going to immediately burn all the things that are there and maybe ransack all the homes of the conspirators, like that it is.
I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts. I am no orator as Brutus is, but as you know me, all a plain, blunt man that love my friend, and that they know full well, that gave me public leave to speak of him. For I have neither writ, nor words, nor worth, action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir men's blood. I only speak right on. I tell you that which you yourselves do know, show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor, poor dumb mouths, and bid them speak for me. But were I Brutus and Brutus Antony, there were an Antony would ruffle up your spirits and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar that should move the stones of Rome to rise and mutiny.
So he says, and this is again a punch, this is the punchline here, sort of. He says, I do not know how to speak. I am a plain, blunt man. I know what is in my heart and I try to convey. In fact, I want to just expose the wounds of the Caesar and let them speak for themselves, but poor dumb mouths, they cannot speak. But if Brutus were in my place and I was in his place, then you know what Brutus would have done? He would have put the mouths in each and every wound and made them to speak in such a way that you will all rise in mutiny. So he's again emphasizing on the point that they must rise and they must do the mutiny, and that is what Brutus would have done. So even if a person is not as powerful, let us say, as Brutus in oratory, this is the ingenious way or method that he adopts to exactly get the desired effect here.
Citizens, we'll mutiny. First citizen, we'll burn the house of Brutus. Third citizen, away then. Come, seek the conspirators. Antony,
Yet, hear me, countrymen. Yet, hear me speak.
citizens, peace. Ho, hear Antony, most noble Antony. Antony,
Why, friends, you go to do you know not what?
This is again a statement that is a matter of fact or truth. Most of the time you decide and you go, but what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? You know not what. Why? Because in a mob psychology there is no thought process, no thinking at all. How does he say that? Because the entire thing started with him showing the will, and they said, read the will, read the will. They were so much for it. After they saw the piteous spectacle of Caesar, his body and the wounds and other thing, they are completely charged now and they want to execute what is to be done immediately. In the process, they have forgotten the will. Now, here is the last time that he is holding them. He wants to also now read the will and make sure that they understand what is the reality of the relationship between Caesar and them, which is there in the will. So that is the trump card that he is going to use now.
Wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your loves? Alas, you know not. I must tell you then, you have forgot the will I told you of.
citizens, most true. The will. Let's stay and hear the will. Antony,
Here is the will, and under Caesar's seal. To every Roman citizen he gives, to every several man 75 drachmas.
second citizen, most noble Caesar, will revenge his death. Third citizen, O royal Caesar. Antony,
Hear me with patience.
citizens, peace. Ho! Antony,
Moreover, he hath left you all his walks, his private arbours and new planted orchards. On this side Tiber he hath left them you, and to your heirs forever common pleasures, to walk abroad and recreate yourselves.
So Caesar has actually left, meaning he has treated the people as his heirs, like his children, and he has given away everything. 75 drachmas is quite a big figure. Once we were trying to calculate, seeing in the internet, and I think if you consider the time in which it had happened, it's a huge sum that he has given to each and every citizens. Not only that, by the side of the river Tiber, whatever is the orchards and the walk, for everything that is there, he has left everything for the people to recreate themselves for their generations completely. But this also shows, if you do not have a product to sell, however great your advertisement is, it will not sell. But Caesar was not like that. So there was enough case for Antony to let's say speak on behalf of Caesar like this. So he has kept everything and given everything for the people there.
Here was a Caesar, when comes such another?
first citizen, never, Never! Come away, away! We'll burn his body in the holy place, and with the brands fire the traitors' houses. Take up the body. Second citizen. Go fetch fire. Third citizen. Pluck down benches. Fourth citizen. Pluck down forms, windows, anything. Exit citizens with the body. Antony.
Now, let it work. Mischief, thou art afoot, take thou what course thou wilt.
This is the most important sentence in the whole oration. Unfortunately, this is not seen in the movie clip that we just saw. It's very sad because you need a philosopher to understand the depth of the statement. This is the statement that he proves that he does the entire thing in a very detached way, even though there is a strong personal passion towards Caesar. So objectively this has to be done. So in other words, the whole thing ought to be done because he thought it was his obligation to do it. However, see, this is the key lesson there. If you want to do something which is right, which is your obligation, it has to be triggered by some passion, and that passion can touch a chord in you at a very personal level, and that is how it should be. It triggers you there. But once it triggers you there, you must not deal with it in a personal way, but make it into a common cause. No way that a country can be left in the hands of such conspirators who are extremely selfish and extremely ambitious and egoistic like that. So it ought not to be done. So you cannot argue that anyway Caesar is gone now, let there be peace. No, not like that. This has to be done means this has to be done. And whatever has to be done, you are right, as Gita says, karmanyevadhikaraste. Your right is in the action only, not in the results of the action. So he is picturizing mischief as it is. Some mischief is now let loose now. Now let it work. He is soliloquizing. Mischief thou art afoot. I have let you loose. Take thou what course thou wilt. I really do not know what will come of it. Maybe they will kill the conspirators, or Brutus may come to know of it and he can suppress them, or Antony may be punished, or whatever it is. He really does not know. Before beginning the oration also he did not know. Now having finished the oration also, what course it is going to take, of course now it may be obvious, but he doesn't care about the result. He is extremely satisfied in doing what ought to be done, and that is a great lesson for all of us, that you are happy in executing the right type of action. The results one should not bother at all, but that does not mean that you don't have a vision of what this action is going to lead to. So he was very clear in that, but how he went about that action is what we can say is perfect objectivity. So the terms that Swamiji uses often is detached attachment, dispassionate passion, that is what we see here, a sense of renunciation. So when the crowd is all involved now, he is standing apart and watching all these things. So he is soliloquizing and finally I am saying that now let it work. Mischief thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. These two lines should be sort of by heart.
From Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare, Act 3, Scene 2, lines 55 to 261.
A phenomenal reading by Swamiji also here. We will just conclude with Swamiji's commentary.
Julius Caesar was a Roman emperor, a noble soul. Brutus, with his conspirators, assassinated Caesar. He convinced the masses that Caesar was a selfish tyrant, detrimental to the state. The people accepted Brutus's dastardly action as an honourable service to the nation. Mark Antony was a true friend of Caesar's. He learnt too late of the conspirators' diabolical plan and Caesar's assassination. He decided to expose their treachery and managed to obtain Brutus's permission to speak at Caesar's funeral. Brutus, having permitted Antony to speak, left the scene of the funeral. Antony faced an emotionally charged mob. They were led to believe that Brutus was honourable and the assassination justified. Antony now had the tremendous task of turning the whole mob against Brutus. He went about it cautiously, brilliantly, to expose the conspirators. The oration of Antony is an outstanding piece of English literature. Antony worked on the psychology of the mob, turned their mind around from their state of infatuated admiration to infuriated rage against Brutus and the rest. Antony handled the whole situation with perfect objectivity. He felt it his obligatory duty to expose the villainy of the conspirators, went about it meticulously in a spirit of detachment, and at the end of his brilliant oration, he left the result for destiny to work itself out. Mischief, thou art afoot, take thou what course thou wilt.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.